A very good evening and welcome to the Fourth Estate, this week's edition of the Fourth Estate, right here on NTV. My name is Catherine Ageno, and before we delve into those issues of journalism and the stories that transpired this week, and of course looking forward to some of the events that are happening in the week, I just want to wish it is Mother's Day, and I want to wish all the mothers out there happy Mother's Day. I know it's late in the evening, but yes, I still can wish you a happy Mother's Day. And also, the aspiring mothers, are they retired mothers? Yeah, those that are no longer mothers. Well, all of you are mothers, and we're saying thank you and happy Mother's Day. And for those of you who love public holidays, yeah, I think we just might have a few in the coming week. We have Eid coming up, but there is one sure one that the government has confirmed. That is Wednesday. We have a big day, something big happening on Wednesday. And yes, we'll be talking about, it actually forms part of the key issues we're discussing this evening. And at this point, let me welcome on the Fourth Estate, we do host the most experienced journalists of the land to reflect on the issues of the week and also what is happening, coming up in the new week. And this evening, I am privileged to host none other than Mr. Alex Atuhaire. He was my boss at some point. And right now, he is the editorial director at PM Daily. Welcome to the show, Alex.
Thank you, Catherine, and a very good evening to all the viewers out there. And in the same realm, let me also wish all the mothers, my mother, the mother of my children, and all the wonderful mothers out there.
You're looking at your mother right here.
Mother's Day, including yourself.
Thank you.
And I want to say that you can't say that somebody is a retired mother or is a mother. Once a mother, always a mother.
Always a mother.
Yeah.
That's right. Thank you. And oh, by the way, I received a special gift from my son today. It's the very first time I received a gift as a mother. It was overwhelming.
That is very kind of him. That's so wonderful.
My son is only 15. He bought me, he knows I love chocolates, so he bought me chocolate and bought me a rose flower, a fresh rose. And for me, I wish that flower never withers.
Thank you very much for raising him as a great man. You can see already what he's doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you, mothers out there. And thank you, Joshua. That was a very, very special gift. Now, this week, lots of things happened, Alex.
Yes.
But what stood out for me was the World Press Freedom Day. For the very first time in so many years, this time we marked it, so to speak. We had events organized countrywide. We had people talk about the world, the freedom of the press in Uganda. We had we had the matter. We had in churches, in mosques. We had the issue being discussed. We had all sorts of events, and for me, we had commemorative meetings. And besides giving us the fact, showing us the fact that people are now appreciating the work of journalists and appreciating the environment in which we work, it also pointed to something else that we probably are not speaking with one voice, but that is something that we shall come back to later. So what really is the story about the media in Uganda today? Are we united like we should? Why is there, for instance, still a lot of, why are our journalists still suffering a lot of violence, facing a lot of violence and threats? Is it something that we as journalists are failing to address? What's really the story?
Well, thank you. The story of the media in Uganda has been the story of the media elsewhere in the world. Basically, challenged by about 2 or 3 issues. what we call in the newsrooms the digital migration,
Yeah.
whereby either readers or the audiences are moving from platform to platform. Then that brings the second challenge of the business and the political economy of the media, the business viability of some of the media institutions, especially media platforms in the legacy kind style of media.
Yeah.
Then, of course, number 3 is the third challenge is attack on freedom of expression worldwide. And in Uganda, that challenge is manifested in the safety of journalists,
Yeah.
especially the foot soldiers. 3 weeks ago, the Human Rights Network for Journalists Uganda launched the 2020 Press and Freedom Index. And we saw that the attacks on journalists had increased in the previous year, had increased this year than in the previous year. And then what was comparing for me is that some of the communities are starting to attack the journalists. So we need to get back into our houses, do our houses on order, so that we do our work in such a way that the communities will be our first line of defense. Now, those 3 challenges were, of course, exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic, which imposed a lot of restrictions, especially in Uganda. While in Uganda, the media was declared an essential services, so journalists could do their work. But there were incidents that showed that the journalists continue to be restricted in the name of the COVID SOPs. So I think in a nutshell, that is the story of journalism in Uganda today. But you ask the specific questions that are we divided? Are we together? I think that because, you know, even on World Press Freedom Day, I am a member of the executive of the Uganda Editors Guild.
Yes.
And we inaugurated...
And by the way, thanks, that was a remarkable event.
You're welcome. We inaugurated the Uganda Editors Guild on World Press Freedom Day as an important body also in the advocacy of more spaces of freedom of association. I think instead of looking at ourselves as divided, we should look at ourselves as actually starting to reignite the internal self-organization that the media needs. First of all, at the different levels. Now, at the level of owners and the business side of the media, for some time they have been very consistent in how they are organized. You know, currently the National Association of Broadcasters is very instrumental in actually handling media business relations between their members and different sectors.
The other stakeholders,
then we had the Uganda Media Owners Association.
Yes.
Those are the directors and I mean the people who represent the director, the MDs. Now we have had Uganda Journalists Union, which also handles union issues. And then we have had Uganda Journalists Association, which is basically an association that has been bringing together especially the foot soldiers. Now, why did we decide to form an editors guild? We realized that the level of the editors, and you know the editors are very important in how the media plays its role.
Yes.
We realized that we did not have such an organized, we are not very well organized at that level, and that actually affects the way the whole industry is organized. So there are people, very senior people who were attending an international media training program called ITP in Sweden. That included the likes of Dr. Peter Mwesige, the likes of Barbara Kaija, the editor-in-chief of the New Vision, and some scholars, some people from the universities. There was Dr. Adolf Mbene, then there was Paula Moru, and some others, and Peter Okerejabwe from the Media Council. And then they came back and said, we need to inspire the editors who are still active to form an editors
Because for them, they're already out of the
society in Uganda. And we have seen these editors societies work very well, especially in Kenya. They are very strong in moving media issues. In Tanzania, they have been having a clampdown on the spaces of freedom of expression, and the editors forum, the Tanzania Editors Forum, has been very instrumental in raising issues. In Ethiopia, also, who is a member of the East African Editors Society, you know, they have had long-standing issues on freedom of expression. So when those people came, then they called us, editors from different media houses, and we formed the Editors Guild of Uganda about 2 years ago. So what you saw on World Press Freedom Day, we were just inaugurating it, but the guild has been running for the last 2 years, trying to form the vision and the mission of what the guild should be known for, and I think those issues were very well explained on the day.
And you're on the interim leadership?
Yeah, I'm on the interim leadership, yes.
Okay. That well said, but how about the foot soldiers? Because at that level, okay, we're trying to organize at the level of the editors, right?
Yes.
But when we're trying to advocate for media freedom in the country, the people that go out there, that interface with our newsmakers, are the reporters.
Yes.
What is it that is lacking? Where is the gap? Because we see a lot of division. Even if you don't acknowledge it, there's a lot of division at that level. We have so many associations. We have the health journalists associations. We have the sports journalists. It's not bad to have those associations, but at some point, these associations should have a meeting point. We should agree we should have an umbrella kind of association or body, but that doesn't seem to happen. And maybe that's the reason why people find it hard to punch us, because we are divided at that level.
Yes, I must agree with you that there's been the enemy within for the media. Of course, we have had a lot of external forces that affect media freedom, media practice, and shape the way the media, the strength, the way the media is able to play their role in the society. So there are several external forces like economic pressures, interference from the state, the regulatory environment. But the enemy within has been lack of leadership in so many ways. One, the associations are there, but probably they do not have an impact because then the leadership is not been as consistent as it should be. So when you raise the issue of the foot soldiers and very many associations, I think the home for the foot soldiers of the media is to focus on strengthening the leadership, the consistency and leadership in the Uganda Journalists Association. And then after that, they will be able to play a bigger role in the industry if the leadership is strong and consistent.
Okay.
Yes.
I belong to the Uganda Media Women's Association,
Yes.
and we commemorated the World Press Freedom Day on Thursday,
Yes.
much later. And then we launched a campaign. We called it Mission 2025, specifically meant to help fight, help prevent the threats that female journalists face. But the question is, how this threat is big. I mean, we all know it's there. Yes. Our journalists are not safe out there. But during our discussions at that event, someone mentioned and said, but you guys are not organized. Yeah? Maybe you should, while you ask the military people not to beat you up, while you ask the public to be kind to you, and what about you? Look from the inside. What have you done
I'll come
to
to that.
ensure that you're safe, your journalists are safe?
I'll come to that. Now, when the issue of self-organization has been an issue,
Yes.
and I've consistently said it has, conceded it has. Now, the people who are doing a media development program under the auspices of the ITP International Training Program, funded by the Swedish, they have gone ahead, apart from inspiring the formation of the Editor Society of Uganda, or known as the Uganda Editors Guild. They have gone ahead, their follow-up project, they have come up with an idea to form what they call a media sector working group. Now, that media sector working group is supposed then to coordinate the self-organization at the whole industry level. If you followed the activities of the World Press Freedom Day, the media sector working group, which is hosted at the Media Council,
Yes.
by the way, at the Uganda Media Council, also which has been in the past a divisive institution within the media.
Yeah.
But now we are asking the people in the media to try to work with the council, and then we deal with the issues we may not like that comes, because the council is mandated by law to regulate journalism practice. So instead of rejecting it, it is better to work with them to reform some of the things you don't. And I think through the media sector working group, I can speak because I am a member of the steering committee representing the online media in the sector working group. And the representation in the Uganda Media Sector Working Group is by associations.
Yes.
So the Editors Guild has a representative there. The Uganda Journalists Association has a representative there. The Uganda Women's Media Association is also part of that. The National Association of Broadcasters is part of that. Then these other bodies, including security agencies, are represented there. Now, the wider issues...
Even security agencies.
Yes. The wider issues affecting journalists, which have been caused by especially the security agencies. We believe that if that media sector working group forms out strongly, like the Editors Guild is trying to, then some of the wider industry issues will be resolved and handled in a more robust and impactful way.
Okay. Thank you, Alex. And we're going to take a short break, but when we return, there's the question of how can you survive? Can the journalism profession survive in this kind of environment? I mean, there are all these economic pressures, we have political pressures and everything. Just how can we survive and ensure that, you know, freedom, is it an elusive dream? Is it real? Is it something we can catch, something we can actually try and chase? And we should also be joined by another person, and that is none other than Elias Samchibi, Mr. Elias Samchibi. He is the managing editor, Weekends Daily, and we will take it from there. Welcome back. This is the Fourth Estate, and my name is Catherine again, and my guests tonight, none other than Mr. Alex Satire. He is the managing editor, editorial director, PM Daily, and we've also been joined by Mr. Elias Samchibi. He was the managing editor Weekends at Daily Monitor until yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. But that's a story for another day. Welcome to the show, Mr. Mchibi.
Thank you.
We were discussing, we're reflecting on the World Press Freedom Day, the activities for the day, and the things that we did or did not do. Where's the miss? Where are the gaps? Why do we still have these questions about, I was specifically asking Mr. Tyre about safety of journalists. Why is it still a big issue? Why do we still have to worry about safety of our journalists when they're out there? Is it, and I was sharing with him that at an event organized by the Uganda Media Women's Association, somebody raised the fact that we have to look deep within ourselves as journalists. Maybe there's something we're not doing right to ensure that our journalists are safe while they're doing their job. What's your take? Is it that we have failed as journalists or as editors to ensure the safety of our journalists? Or is it that the world out there is just adversarial?
Yeah, thanks, Catherine. I don't know. I think it's the first time I am hearing that line, that now we should be responsible for why we are not safe when we are doing our job. And definitely the issue has been, it is not only in Uganda, it's also in many countries which are, you could say maybe are in transition or just semi-democracies. The issues, because you see the threats, most of the threats that journalists face come from the state, unfortunately. We should be the guarantors of our freedoms and rights. And why that happens, it's because of the politics, as it were. So I think until the politics is fine, has been rectified, and you know that there's going to be fair competition there, and no one has something to hide, I mean, that may cause them to even harm journalists to ensure that it does not come out, then it is very difficult to say that we will have a free press as we would love to have it.
So I'll turn to Alex. What is that thing that you think someone suggested? Again, I'll refer to that meeting because a lot of issues were raised during that meeting that were a bit controversial. And someone said that most of the violence, and I can attest to that, happened during the political season. And they were saying, what if we change the way we cover the political stories? Are we going to, forget about covering political stories altogether? Are we going to cover them in a cowardly manner? How should we handle political stories? How should we handle election seasons as journalists as to ensure our safety?
Well, it's the responsibility of journalists to cover the political seasons because it's an important part of why journalism is important for the society. So I'm afraid we are not going to run away from covering the political seasons the way they come. We may not be able to actually even influence the way they form out. But you are right, we need to do an internal evaluation of how we can still do our work, of how our journalists, of how we can take our journalists to the front lines to do their work, but also making sure that they are absolutely safe, because the continued attacks on journalists actually is a minus to how then the people who are coming up, the children in schools who want to take on the journalist profession. If people are running away from you, from the profession, I think it is not very
One of
good.
the ladies that was beaten, actually, Josephine Namakumbi, was talking of quitting the journalism profession because she feels she can't stand it anymore. And I'm thinking, just to add to what you're saying, that's dangerous.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the chilling effect of continued attacks on journalists. So we need to do a proper, at all levels, at levels of editors as organized, at the levels of the foot soldiers as organized, and at the levels of important the media owners. How do we deal with this animal called attacks on the safety of journalists, especially at the front line?
We know, let's not gloss over this. We know that most of the attacks actually have come from the security agencies, right? At the Editors Guild level, have you engaged these people on how best to relate with our journalists while in the field? Because if you look at most of the reports that are coming out, the attacks are really not from the ordinary person. It's usually the security agencies. Are you engaging them at that level?
Yes. Very good question.
Beyond the football match.
Yes. Very good question. In the run-up to the elections, we sat at the Editors Guild level and saw some of the things that were going to affect the practice and the way the media was going to do their work, and there were two urgent issues. One was the attempt by the Media Council to register journalists. We thought that was going to really embed and stop some journalists from exercising and practicing. The number two is, of course, attacks on the journalists. Now, we did think that the registration, the attempt at registering journalists by the Media Council was very urgent, and we took it on through the legal process. And although the judgment came 3 or 4 days after the elections, we are able to stop that at that level. Then we worked with very closely with the Uganda Human Rights Network for Journalists to document, because you know those attacks were happening day in, day out on journalists, to document the attacks on the journalists. They continue to happen today. Now we are in consultation with some members of the Ugandan Law Society and want to take it on also through a legal process, such that at least we have a precedent that these things should not be happening. Now we talked about the football match. The Editors Guild was not the organizer of the football match, but some of the members participated in the football match between the army and the media. The chief organizer of the football match was the Uganda National Association of Broadcasters, NAB, was representing the media. And I think the idea of, engaging is normally a very good idea. I don't think we should discourage them. If they want to engage through that whole day activities and a football match, but they should be able to engage and come up with resolute commitments that both institutions will do their work without disadvantaging the other.
But there were also some complaints from some voices from among the foot soldiers saying that we are the ones who get beaten, not the editors, not the media owners. Why is it that the football match is with the media owners and not us? So they're like, these guys don't get beaten, we get beaten. Why aren't we the ones who actually play with these guys? And
I think the whole idea of that UPDF media event, I got to see some of the things that were involved, was to involve media as a whole, not the owners. If you saw the football games, there was a football game of the generals and the media owners, and then the general general football game. And I think the issue of engagement, the issue of engagement, some people are saying, of course, that you can't engage with somebody who is already can't be reformed. Some people's view is that the state institutions in Uganda are so bad, including the army. But I think for me the issue of engagement is a very important issue.
And I think it's a gradual process.
And it's a gradual process.
All right, thank you, Alex. I'll turn to you very quickly, Mr. Muchibi. We were discussing the point of survival of the journalism profession. Now, we cannot talk about media freedom when we can't divorce the issue of the journalist's welfare. If you're talking of media freedom, it takes all forms, but welfare is key. How best can this be addressed right from the newsrooms, our newsrooms, to ensure the welfare of our journalists is okay, is well taken care of, before we push beyond the doors of our newsrooms and look at the other people when they go outside there. But from within, what is it that we can do to ensure they're okay? Because some of these threats they face because some of them are susceptible to all sorts of things out there because of the poor welfare. So from the newsroom, what can be done? What are you doing in your newsroom, for instance?
Me personally, or the newsroom? I mean, that's a complicated question. Actually, if you have had conversations with journalists all over the world, there is a general complaint. Journalists tend to feel that we get paid less than maybe many comparable professions. But definitely in many countries, I think it is much better than it is in Uganda.
In Uganda, yes.
And you're going to find that a lot of journalists work under subhuman conditions, if you may say. I have heard of media houses paying less than $50 for a broadcast story or something like that. And that is true. But now we have new existential challenges for journalism, because the journalism field has changed. The industry has changed so much because of the disruptions that we are suffering from technology, and now the democratization of journalism or communication. Virtually everyone with a social media account is a journalist. They can break news and do whatever. And that has significantly affected the revenues that legacy media used to attract. Of course, there is that old conversation that even when many media houses earned a lot of money, journalists were not considered a priority in as far as pay is concerned. And that has gone on for a while also, that conversation, that if our job, our principal product that we produce is news, then journalists should be at the center of that operation, even by way of how they get remunerated and taken care of. But now that conversation is being disrupted by the dwindling revenues that media houses get out of what they have to sell. Fewer and fewer people are buying newspapers. Maybe fewer and fewer corporate organizations and other bodies are advertising. So if the advertising spend is reducing, people are paying less and less for news, then that's a big concern. And that brings me to what you just said, that I was the managing editor for the weekends at Monitor until
Please
I
correct.
think I still
Please
until,
correct me
until
if
maybe
I'm
today, whatever. But I mean, the important thing is that I've now been asked to do a new role, and the new role, many people will hear it of it maybe for the first time.
Yes.
And that is because media houses are now trying to come up with new inventive ways. How do we get to make money out of the news that we sell? Because we have, first of all, to do quality news and inform the public in the best possible way. But in order to do that, you have also to be able to pay for it. Have journalists who are very well facilitated, well trained, well equipped.
Motivated?
Yeah, and they have, you're right, the motivation to do what has to be done. And for that to happen, then we have now to explore a whole new environment about how do we not cede space, let's say, to the social media giants, Facebook, Twitter, and whatever. The telecoms are also invading fields where you would think that the media should be earning money. And so there is a new exploration phase that's going on that I think should be part of the answer. If we fail there, then we may not be able to make money and improve our welfare as journalists.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Elias Muchibi. We're going to take another short break, but when we return, we are going to look at that big day that we are all waiting for, the swearing-in ceremony. It's happening on Wednesday, but yes, as journalists, how are we positioning ourselves for this day? What is it that we have to look out for? What should we expect? And all that is coming right after this break. Welcome back to the Fourth Estate. My name is Catherine Ageno, and my guests tonight, as we wrap up the show, Mr. Eliasa Muchivi from Daily Monitor and Mr. Alex Atuhaire. I'm excited. I'm so excited about the public holiday that's coming up on Wednesday. And as journalists, like I was asking, what should we look out for? First of all, what does this, mean to the journalists? In many newsrooms, there were very many people that were covering elections for the very first time, and that definitely means they are going to cover the swearing in for the very first time, but they have no idea how to go about it. What are the things that, as journalists, we should look out for this day? I'm so excited. Alex, I'll start with you as we wrap up the show.
Thank you. Catherine, of course, everybody will have a holiday on that day, and probably followed by Eid, which might fall on Thursday, and into the weekend, except the journalists. So that is the idea and the context behind what the journalists should look out for on that day. But more seriously, I think the swearing in of the new administration, for the 7th time, is that so?
Yeah.
It has what they call in the traditional newsrooms a flat story, so it's actually very difficult to cover than you might think. But I guess that these days journalism is about context. So you may have to look at,
it's a unique situation,
at the
COVID-19.
person swearing in for the last 35 years. What has changed, what has not changed, what has been done, what has not been done. That's context.
Yeah.
Because context is also a construction of facts. Then number two, you need to contextualize the last commitment, because the same person swearing in was sworn in on May 12th in 2016. And I remember very well that time. They said their catchword was that this is Kisanja Hakuna Mchezo. So have we, and then I think they also in some way promised that Uganda will become a middle income country in that term. Yeah. So has that happened? If it has not happened, why?
Interrogating some of those promises.
We shall not entertain the excuses that because of COVID. No, because in the same period, Magufuli, the late president, John Pombe Magufuli, has been able to turn Tanzania, the Tanzanian economy, into a middle-income economy.
Okay.
So that's my take
All
on
right. I'll turn to you, Mr. Eliasa Muchevi. What should journalists specifically look out for on Wednesday?
To me, what is intriguing is there are a few contradictions.
Yeah.
One, the president who will be sworn in again for a 6th elected term has set the upper limit for public gatherings at 200. And he has told the world that he is the one who is most concerned about COVID. We didn't even have campaigns leading to the elections,
yes.
in which he, whatever. So if the campaign season where all the candidates were supposed to have an opportunity to explain to people could not be hailed by, huge gatherings because of that, then you cannot tell me you are inviting 4,000 people to sit in Kololo, not 200, but 4,000 over that period. I think that is a big contradiction.
Okay.
And the other one I see is, at least I think the budget is about 7 billion shillings to
cater
for just that one
yes.
day. And the 7 billion shillings is being borrowed, because I was asking one of the people, the organizers, and they are telling me letters of credit. We are giving people letters of credit to get accommodation for the guests, to do this and that. Why are we borrowing to have a fairly big function in these economically strained times?
Because we don't have the money.
When the president can hold another scientific function as he wants to. We all watch him swear in on TV and we go on.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Yasa Muchiri, the Managing Editor, Weekends, Daily Monitor, and Mr. Alex B. at Hyre. I usually want to ask what the B stands for, because you never throw it away. It's always there. Alex B. at Hyre.
I know it, Bajenzire.
Bajenzire. Alex Bajenzire at Hyre, the Editorial Director, PML Daily. Thank you so much for joining the show. My name is Catherine Ageno, and hopefully we will meet again next time. Have a good evening. Thank you for being part of the show.